Thank you. It's great to be back at ApacheCon for the 20th anniversary, no less. And just a slight correction, my time at working on Cassandra is concurrent with my time at DataStax. But I've actually been working on Cassandra for over 10 years, which is, it feels like a long time in the software industry, and in fact that predates Cassandra's contribution or movement into the Apache Foundation. But 20 years, that's like way more than twice as long as 10. That's really something. So, sincere congratulations to everyone who was, working on Apache in 1999, been a part of that, changing the industry, really changing the world. That's really something to be proud of. I actually had this slide. I didn't know that Christopher was speaking before me and going to be spending 15 minutes talking about IBM and open source. So I actually had this article from IBM developer blog about how open source is eating the world. And so that was a little bit redundant now. So I'll skip over that. But I will note that another good example is if you were around in open source in the 90s, Microsoft was kind of the big evil empire. And some of us would spell it with Microsoft with a $, right, and that kind of stuff. Today, Microsoft owns GitHub. By all accounts, they're a reasonably good steward of that, open community resource. They created Windows subsystem for Linux, which I don't think anyone saw coming. They contribute to Chromium, so congratulations, open source won. But I don't think the next 20 years are going to be a series of victory laps. I think there's new tensions and new challenges that we're going to be dealing with, and one of those is kind of telegraphed by the articles on this slide. We're entering an era of co-opetition with the public cloud vendors and the companies that fund and contribute to open source infrastructure software in particular. So you see, in the Apache Foundation, for instance, Amazon created managed streaming for Kafka, or MSK, and they don't, to my knowledge, contribute a great deal to the Apache Kafka project itself. Meanwhile, MSK directly competes with Confluent's Kafka service, and Confluent does contribute a great deal to Apache Kafka. So there's that tension there, and different companies are dealing with this in different ways. So you have Confluent, and you have Redis, and MongoDB and Elastic have all reacted by changing the license on some of the software that they distribute. But nobody has an answer, right? There's no playbook here that says, oh, we just need to do what Red Hat did in the 90s and we'll create a successful outcome here. So we're all trying to figure this out. So I give this not to say that I have all the answers, but that this is a background to understand, this is the world that we're moving into, and this is influencing all of these strategies that these open source contributors are dealing with. So today, I'm going to talk about what DataStax sees as our 3 pillars of engagement with open source, and those are code, content, and community. Of course, DataStax primarily contributes to Cassandra and Tinkerpop. Both of those are Apache projects. But we also contribute to dozens of other open source projects in a more minor way. So first, on the code side, the most visible of these is the Cassandra server itself. DataStax continues to contribute functionality and code to the Cassandra server. And with the release of the 4.0 alpha this past Sunday, I'm pleased to announce that DataStax is also running our internal test suite against 4.0, and we'll be releasing the results of those and helping with the stabilization and the release of 4.0. Some of you may also know that DataStax maintains half a dozen or so of the most popular drivers for Apache Cassandra. We've had a little bit of a split brain with the drivers, though, because what I'm trying to diagram on the left here is that, while we have these open source Apache licensed drivers for Cassandra, we've also had commercial proprietary drivers labeled DSE, that stands for DataStax Enterprise. It's our commercial version of Cassandra. And so we've retained some features and some functionality specific to the DSE drivers. So the second thing that I'm announcing today is that we are merging these. It makes more sense for us to be maximally open and maximally generous with the drivers, and we'll be moving all of the proprietary features into the open source drivers. So some of those features include enhanced load balancing. That's common to all of the drivers. And rather than use something simple like round robin, we actually look at the work queues on the servers and distribute the requests more intelligently. For Python, we have pre-built wheels. For Java, we have reactive stream support. And we also have Spring Boot support coming, which makes it much easier to use the Cassandra driver from a Spring application. The time frame for this is late this fall, so not next week, but this year. And in fact, if the timing lines up, we're hoping to be able to get this out before the Cassandra 4.0 release. So that's on the Cassandra side. On the Tinkerpop side, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Tinkerpop is a toolkit for graph databases. It powers the most common graph databases in the industry, not just DataStax Graph, but also Amazon Neptune, Microsoft Cosmos DB. I believe there's something called Janus that our friends at IBM contribute to. So that's what Tinkerpop is. And if you're wondering what a graph database is or why that would be useful, I'll refer you to something we have called DataStax Academy. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this is where we have a ton of free training and information about both Cassandra and graph databases. But DataStax is the largest contributor to Tinkerpop, and we'd be pleased to get your feedback on the upcoming Tinkerpop release as well. Finally, DataStax announced Constellation, which is our cloud platform, a couple months ago. Constellation consists of 3 cloud services, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that second one here today, which is DataStax Insights. Insights is a single pane of glass, next generation performance monitoring system for Cassandra-based databases. And by next generation, I mean what we're trying to do here, we're not trying to compete with Grafana and with PagerDuty and let you know, hey, you lost a disk, you should replace that, or you're having a network problem over in rack 43. What we're trying to do with Insights is give you proactive information about the trends in your database and in your application behavior, and let you get ahead of those so that you can avoid problems before they become acute. So a good example for the Cassandra people in the room is that Insights can look at the tombstone buildup across partitions and warn you, hey, it looks like you're generating tombstones faster than they're evicted from the system, and that's going to cause problems down the line. So in May, we announced that this is coming for DataStax Enterprise. And the second thing that I'm announcing today is that we're bringing this to all Cassandra-based servers. So whether that's DataStax's distribution or you're running vanilla Apache Cassandra, we will make insights available, not just available, but we will have a free tier of insights up to 50 nodes that we'll be happy to provide. The QR code, you're welcome to scan this. That will take you to a sign up for early access for insights. We're also happy to help you sign up at our booth in the exhibit hall. And just, I'll note that the fine print here is that this is supporting Cassandra versions 3.x. So that means 3.0, which was released almost 4 years ago, and more recent versions than that. So if you're still using an older release, then consider this one more reason to upgrade. I'm really excited that we've got this opportunity to shed some light on the dark art of Cassandra cluster operations, and really excited to bring that to the entire community. On the content pillar, I name-dropped DataStax Academy just a minute ago. We have had over 150,000 people sign up and start learning about Cassandra and about Tinkerpop, and over 15,000 of those have completed full courses on either operations or development of Cassandra applications. This is the most comprehensive resource for Cassandra anywhere, and it's one of the most comprehensive resources for any project of any kind. We've spent millions of dollars developing this content, and we make it available completely free for everyone. I think that Academy is one of the reasons that Cassandra has consistently ranked in the top 10 databases ranked by DB engines. And if you see a company using Cassandra, the chances are good that someone or multiple someones there have used the Academy training. Besides the code and the classes, though, if you take a step back, the skills that we're teaching people allow them to make their lives better and their families' lives better in a very real way. DataStax provides a certification program for Apache Cassandra, and it's becoming an industry standard to the point where employers are asking for that as an indication that, hey, you know what you're doing with Cassandra. So by making this training available, by making this certification available, we're helping people level up their job skills and tackle more interesting challenges. We're also happy not just to host these public events that we host on a weekly basis, but also to do private training. So if your company's thinking about a project and you think, hey, this might be a good fit for Cassandra, but I'm not really sure where to start, we're happy to come in and our developer relations team can host a developer day to teach your team how to tackle these problems. And then on the community side, the biggest and most flashy is hosting a yearly conference called DataStax Accelerate. This is a place where we can bring together our enterprise customers and our open source friends and people building cloud applications and get all of these groups together and share how we're solving some of the hardest problems in the industry. We extend our training into the Accelerate conference. We have a one-day boot camp that people have been very pleased with, how fast that accelerates them into learning how to build Cassandra applications. Our first one was in Atlanta this year. Next year's is going to be in San Diego. Registration isn't open yet, but you can sign up to be notified when it is. The next level down in terms of size is the meetups that we host. And we've taken a deliberate strategy recently to kind of try to get out of the Cassandra echo chamber and move beyond hosting Cassandra-specific meetups to also start to cross-pollinate with other kind of related fields. So the picture in the upper right here, this is from a data science meetup in Amsterdam, which you wouldn't necessarily think is the most fertile ground for Cassandra tutorials, but we filled a room, lots of interest there in how does Cassandra help me build real-time applications. And then another way we're trying to do some of this cross-pollination is with a YouTube series called the Distributed Data Show, where we invite guests on to talk about how they're solving problems, whether that's in the operations side of things or in application development. And these aren't just DataStax customers. If you recognize some of the faces, you can tell that we're really shooting for a cross-section of the industry, and whoever can tell us about an interesting project or an interesting approach or an interesting problem, we'd love to have them on and give them a platform to share that. So those are DataStax's 3 pillars of code, content, and community. Again, we'd love to see you at our booth and tell you a bit more about what DataStax is doing in open source. And here's the QR code once more for the Insights Early Access. Thank you very much.